All right, well, I'm TJ,
And I'm Mark.
and this is our second ranking video of the AEW roster. This one will be for July 2022. We're doing something a little different than we did last time. We actually already did the ranking part of this. I'll link the list and all that stuff in the description of the video, so that way you guys can check it out. And then we're just going to talk about certain things, so that way we don't go 3 hours like we did last time. That was kind of the feedback we got, was we went a little long, so we wanted to change it up and try a different process this time. See what you guys think of it.
Now we'll discuss all reasons why certain people moved up, why people went down. And remember, this ranking is based off of how we think AEW utilized their talent on Dynamite, Rampage, and both Darks. But this month, we're also including the Ring of Honor pay-per-view because they don't have a TV yet. And there was a lot of builds, one-sided builds for the pay-per-view that was shown this past month on Dynamite and Rampage.
Correct. Yeah. And with that being said, we're going to obviously go through and talk certain wrestlers, good or bad, what we thought changed and stuff like that happened, just to kind of give our hot take. I think, Mark, what we should start with is kind of going over the talent that didn't make our list last month that made it this month. And I guess we should start by saying how that works is you had 2 TV appearances or 4 appearances between TV and Dark across the board. You made it to be ranked. If you didn't have that much TV time, we didn't rank you. I think when I was putting this together, there were over 200 talent, including Dark and Elevation. Obviously, we weren't going to rank 200 people, so we put that in place. So the people that made this month's list that didn't make last month, we got Bear Country, Sky Blue, JD Drake, both Renegades, Cole Carter, Fuego, Leon Ruffin, and Helico, Brian Cage, The Bunny, Layla Gray, Ari Davari, Sanjay, and Smart Mark Sterling, because they were both wrestled this month. We normally don't do managers or anything like that unless they wrestle. Varsity Blondes, Private Party, Gates of Agony, Butcher and Blade, Lee Moriarty, Takeshita, Gresham, and Roosh. We'll talk about some of those guys in a little bit more depth, but I just wanted to give the list of congrats to making it a couple of TV appearances instead of just a squash match or 2.
I think the one you skipped over was Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe, we could talk about anyways, because he didn't really make.
Correct. That's why I skipped him.
Yeah. All right. He didn't fit the 2 matches on TV. He only had the 1 appearance on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but
correct.
We're not really happy about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess let's start with that, right? Like, so
okay.
I mean, we put him on the list. We ranked him out of 92 talent. We ranked him at 64 at the top of our D list because he had a title defense on a pay-per-view. But I felt like that he should have been on TV leading up to that event. I think Lethal did a good job. I mean, our ranking of Lethal is high. But I wish Joe would have at least had 1 or 2 appearances on TV, maybe at the Go Home show, right? That Rampage before, just something to make that match feel a little bit more special.
It was a good match, but yeah, we had a one-sided build to it, and I'm not sure why. And actually, since the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, we haven't seen Samoa Joe since then. So it's kind of like a weird thing. He looked great in the match. He looked like he's back as a wrestler, and he wasn't on TV before, and he's not on TV since.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely somebody we want to see on our television. I mean, there's got to be a reason for it. I mean, I don't know if that's one of those people that are going to be on Ring of Honor, strictly Ring of Honor, and they don't want to,
I understand that,
take time away, but
he was built as an AEW signing.
Sure.
And that's why he's in our D, because we thought they could have utilized him a lot more, even video packages on TV to build for the match. The match was fine, but a lot of these guys can have great matches, but it's how they build the match or their character. And I wish we saw more of Joe last month.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's kind of from a negative note, let's go to a positive note and like the biggest swing upwards this month, right? Last month, we had Brody King, who only had a couple of appearances, ranked 81 out of 87. And we shot him up to number 2 this month. He's up 79 points. I mean, what a hell of a month for Brody, right?
So it started with the Royal Rampage, and he won that. He won that awesome where he choked Darby out and dropped him out of the ring.
Yeah.
And that set up the match with him and Moxley, which anytime you're going against a champion, it's a big match. But what's nice is since that match, he didn't just drop off. They kept building the Darby card. And that's actually going into August still, that feud.
Yeah.
And it does feel like they're not just building Brody versus Darby. There is some House of Black, maybe against Darby Sting. We're not sure. Miro fits in there somewhere too.
Right. Well,
and it's a good build.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those things too, like you said, it's a good build. And I think that's more what me and you pay attention to when ranking this, not necessarily who's the best talent or who has the most wins or who has the most TV time. It's like what we feel the audience cares about. And honestly, I'm more excited about the coffin match than I am about the championship match on Dynamite. Jericho, Moxley, Quake of the Lake. I'm way more excited about the coffin match than I am the title match. So, I mean, that's saying something. You know what I mean?
Honestly, when the Brody King match happened, I thought they could have even done it better. Earlier in that show, they did have a typical House of Black promo with Malachi Black talking and Brody King showing up. I wish they were showing footage of Brody King from Ring of Honor or even New Japan. They kind of got away from all that. I think they could have built Brody King even better for casual viewers. He's a non-ex WWE guy, so some people won't know him as much as a Cesaro. And I think he couldn't really be higher, but like they could have even done a better job of building him. But I'm just glad they kept the momentum going with him after the John Moxley match.
Exactly, because I think that's one of both of mine and yours biggest critique is honestly the fact that it's like, okay, they have a title match, now what? Like there's always like that like floundering period before they find out what they're doing next. There's never like a smooth transition from one program to the next program. Where with this, it was smooth. It was all right, you had your match against Moxley, you had your spotlight, and now let's build up to this Darby thing and you taking them out and give both you guys a prominent spot on the card and something,
and
unique for the fans.
Losing to the world champion shouldn't automatically put you down at the bottom of the card.
No, not at all.
Most people should be losing to your world champion in title match or not. And it was a title match. So it's not like it should shoot him down. It showcased, and Moxley loves those brutal matches, and it was a perfect setup for that.
Absolutely.
And then Darby is a great person to be able to throw around with the size difference between them.
Yeah.
And like you said, that all the other coffin matches have really delivered. So yeah, it's not just a match. It's a match with history and this past month's build, and the size difference is really key, I think, in that feud.
I agree. I mean, think about the match that Darby and Brody had this month. Like Brody killed him. Like he literally destroyed him that whole match, which I think is one of the reasons I'm so looking forward to the coffin match, because it's a stipulation. It's Darby's match, right? So you're like, all right, there's a good chance Darby's going to win this, but how the hell is he going to pull it off? Like, and that's what's intriguing to me going into this. You know what I mean?
And what's nice about this feud is I can't think of another feud that they really built off of online videos. They had Darby Allin signing in the store, and Brody King came into the store and threw Darby Allin through a table and all that. And then now they both have tattoos of each other. So like there's some really fun stuff going on outside of TV too, but just on TV, they've been utilizing these guys pretty well.
Absolutely. So going up off of what you're talking about, like using outside stuff to kind of tell the story, which I think we both like. Let's talk a little bit about Pac and this All Atlantic Championship. Obviously, his defenses have been on the YouTube shows, obviously, because you're not going to show the live crowd a Rough Pro match, right? But I think the way they're doing this is good if they can get a couple of talents from other companies to come in and fight Pac on a Rampage or on a Dynamite. Once in a while. I know he's doing this Europe tour, so it makes sense that all of these are going to be on Dark. But I think that would help just shine a bigger light on the title and on what they're trying to do with that belt,
I think it's very different than what they've done before. So it's nice. Yes, it makes sense. They can't show it on Dynamite or Rampage. So it does get moved to the YouTube show, but it's a big deal. They talk about it on Dynamite, which really helps. And I hope, like you said, after this European tour for Pac is done, he comes back here. And this is kind of like the when Cody was TNT champion with the Open Challenge, and you had people from different companies come in and face him for this belt. Especially foreign talent would be fantastic to see Pac wrestling on Dynamite again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since we're talking about champs, let's talk about the new Ring of Honor champion, Claudio. Big month for him. He had a big month last month, his first month in. He's in Blood and Guts, and he, fought on the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Like, everything since then has been fantastic. Obviously, going into the Ring of Honor thing, this was the plan for his debut anyway. What do you feel about the usage so far of Claudio just in the 2 months he's been here? Obviously, we're talking about more about this month, but I mean, the winning a title your second month in is a big deal.
30 days into the new company, he becomes the first time he's ever won a world championship. I know it's the Ring of Honor World Championship. It's not the AEW World Championship, but that's a huge deal for him. Everyone wants to be a world champion. And just the difference of using him weekly, even though he's Ring of Honor champion, compared to what we talked about with Joe earlier, is so much better that, like, we are seeing him. Not always with the belt, but with the belt too. And it helps. It's a bigger name to help bring eyes to the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I'm not sure if he's going to be defending it, in AEW or not, but that's fine. He doesn't have to.
Well, I mean, he's going to defend it at Battle of the Belts, right? Like, that's
true.
That's an into August thing, but
yeah.
But I mean, I think until Ring of Honor has their own separate setup, I think you're going to see a lot of ROH stuff being defended there. But kind of talking about that though, like, that feels like the second most important title on the card, which is kind of crazy. The TNT title doesn't feel as important as the Ring of Honor championship. And I don't know if it's because it's Cesaro versus Wardlow, or Claudio versus Wardlow, or what the deal is there. But I think it's just because it feels like it's put in a more prominent spot.
But it's put in a prominent spot because Blackpool Combat Club is all
exactly
over. He's coming out to help Yuta, and he's, they're doing tag matches, and it's in a bigger storyline than Wardlow. And we'll get to Wardlow, but
yeah. But I mean, our perfect example talking about that, we're talking about Yuta. He's your pure champion. That title feels more important than the TNT title right now. I mean, with all this stuff with Garcia, with him fighting Jericho, which is an August match, but all the lead up to that. I mean, I feel like the pure championship this month for July on AEW TV is a bigger deal than the TNT championship, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it did lead to a great match there was a dark match, but I believe that was last month, right? Where Yuta faced Alan Angels, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then right after that, we lead to Yuta versus Garcia, which I know was some people's match of the year last year. They went like an hour long. And it was a fantastic match on the Ring of Honor card.
Yeah.
And yes, it's mostly two AEW guys, but two guys in their mid-20s, and they're in our top A. Like, I love that AEW's utilizing this young talent, and they're both in prominent storylines because they're in prominent teams. What is it? Blackpool Combat Club and Jericho Appreciation Society.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have
they're all over the show because of that.
Right. I mean, we have them ranked 6 and 7, out of everybody, right? Yuta at 6, Garcia at 7. And I mean, the only reason we gave the little bit of a push to Yuta is because he beat Garcia for the title. I think if that match shouldn't happen, and Garcia obviously beat Danielson this month, Garcia would be
huge.
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
It's
a bigger
huge that
deal.
Garcia ended the month. Yes, I know Hager had the distraction in the match, but
Whatever.
Brian's not even on our list because he had one match and one appearance this time.
Right, exactly. I mean,
What
we
a
left him
huge
off
name
from the injury. Sure.
that he's come back from injury and he doesn't need the win. What does he need the win to go against Moxley? No. So
Right.
Garcia getting that win is huge, and Garcia's headlined so many shows already for being an unknown before to a lot of people before how far they've pushed him up in AEW.
Absolutely. So I mean, we're talking Ring of Honor titles, right? So let's just go and talk about FTR, holding those belts. They dropped a few spots this month, nothing crazy. I think we ranked them number 1 last month. We have them at 4 this month. And it's just because they didn't have as much TV time. I think that Ring of Honor 2 out of 3 falls match was the best match on the pay-per-view.
Probably, I think you've even said the best match of the month.
Yeah. And I honestly think, it sucks that we're not pushing them for a title match for the AEW titles. But I don't mind the fact of keeping them separate from Swerve and Lee for a bigger build. I mean, we know Swerve and Lee weren't the original plans after Jurassic Express, right? It was supposed to be the Hardys, which I think then you would have probably went straight to FTR,
Hardy's beating FTR would have been a really big thing. I was also surprised when the Bucks lost the belts because are the Bucks even on our list? They only had one match last month, so no.
No, I think the Bucks are on the list because they had a lot of promo.
Oh, I'm sorry,
stuff.
they are. They're on
Yeah.
their C tier, but they lost the belts. And
Yeah.
I was big time shocked about that because I was expecting Bucks versus FTR at the pay-per-view. Now we bring up the trios titles and we know they're going in a different direction, but yeah, FTR they did a one-sided build again against
the Briscoes. Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, the Briscoes. And I mean they got that really cool promo time talking about Dax's 8-year-old daughter. They fight like an 8-year-old girl, and they're still all over the show. It's just the fans want them to be AEW champs too. We're holding off for whatever reason. There's obviously some story going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the hold off. I'm worried about them for August. I'm worried about what is the plan now that the Ring of Honor pay-per-view is over? Obviously I'm not worried about Yuta or Garcia or Claudio because they're still in that, Blackpool Combat Club versus JAS stuff. That stuff's still going to be the top of the card regardless. But the other Ring of Honor stuff that was on that card, I'm worried about where it goes. Like FTR, same thing with Lethal. We ranked Lethal high. He was on every single TV this month for the Joe pay-per-view. And going into Battle of the Belts next month, he's going to fight Wardlow for the title. He's in a spot now, but once that's over, if he doesn't win the belt, where is he going to go? I guess maybe into a trios thing with Singh and Dutt, which I wouldn't mind. They got to start building that up. They got to figure out what teams, how big is that tournament going to be?
We should know by next week. But
especially
August.
Like you talked about too. There's only with the time we're recording this, we're a week into August. There's only a 3-week build for All Out, and that's where that belt's going to be. The trios titles are going to be won. So I mean, obviously they have to do something ASAP to get that moving.
And honestly, even after All Out, we'll have the All Out Fallout. And right after that, they got to build to Grand Slam, which is at the end of September. So, I mean, there's always something on the horizon with AEW. And you got to keep people hot. And some people do move down, but.
So here's my problem with the way AEW hypes their shows, though. I feel like they're always looking 2-3 shows ahead, and then it makes the next show not feel important. I always said that about the Battle of the Belts. This time it doesn't feel, the Battle of the Belts doesn't feel like there was that much of a build to it. And this is an August thing, so I think we'll talk more about it then, but it kind of goes into, when they have these themed shows, they're always looking at the next theme show, right? So like by the time this week's Dynamite comes up, they're already building for Quake at the Lake, and then this show doesn't feel as important because they're already like trying to hype you for 2 weeks from now. They should hype the card
Yeah.
that's in front of them instead of worrying about 2 weeks out. Like you could do it a week out, so you're hyped for the next show. But I feel like they lose sight of some of the pay-per-view feuds and some of the other stuff because they're already talking about the match 2 weeks from now. When like perfect example, like they're talking about Jericho Moxley for Quake at the Lake, but I believe when they first started talking about that, Moxley still had a title defense. I think that was before the Roosh title defense. So you're already pushing a match for Moxley and Jericho. Then I mean, granted, we all knew Roosh was losing that match. I mean, he had a great month, like don't get me wrong, but you knew that match didn't matter by that point, which I think is a problem. I think you don't build to that next title match unless there's like a stipulation or something, right? Like, the Jericho Una match or whatever for the August, whoever takes that spot, cool. Like I get that. But like, don't start building the title match when you're talking about how Roosh has got a shot at it. You know what I mean? Like
I agree. Or the flip side of it is say someday in the future you're building to Jericho versus Moxley, and then Jericho faces Yuta, but he loses and Yuta gets that spot. Like,
yeah,
you don't want to make it overlook, but if you are going to make it overlook, make it seem like, you know what, things can change before the pay-per-view, and show that by saying, by having someone win it is totally unexpected.
Sure.
Because
I agree.
Even with like the Ring of Honor card, most matches seemed predictable going into it, and a lot of it was the bigger star in AEW to win.
The only match that I didn't know, like you didn't kind of know what the outcome was going to be, was the women's title match, right? Like Mercedes versus Serena, which honestly,
and I thought Deeb was going to win that.
Yeah,
and Martinez won. So
I thought it could go either way. I was 50-50 on it, but let's kind of talk about that. Like, we ranked them very high this month because there was a good build for that match. They're 22 and 23. They're both up like 30 spots from last month. I mean, this I think is like the only women's thing that felt like feud that felt big this month. I mean, the JS stuff, the Ruby Anna Ty stuff felt prominent because it was in.
But it's more storyline based, not actual storyline with the match.
Right.
But now, where do they go from there? Like we talked about earlier, have we seen Mercedes or Deeb much? I kind of want them back in the picture a little because you showcased Mercedes at that show. She should be on AEW getting a win now.
I agree. And that's the worry. Like, I think that they're going to drop. Hopefully they don't. But I mean, if they're building to All Out, I don't think that the Ring of Honor women's title is something they're focused on for All Out, right? They're going to be focused on the AEW women's title, maybe the TBS title.
And maybe a tag match, because they've been really pushing the women's tag division. There's no belt, but they've been really pushing the AEW women's tag division, which has definitely got more girls on TV, which is a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, let's talk about, we're talking about the Ring of Honor title, and then we're talking about how going into All Out, it's going to be focused on the other two belts. I don't think the focus is there on the other two belts right now. I mean, we ranked Rosa higher because she is the champion. She had a couple of good defenses this month, but I feel like there's no story there. I mean, she has a story with Tony Storm, but they're teaming together. You have a little bit of the Brit stuff, but it doesn't feel that important.
No, like I have no clue who faces Rosa or Jade at All Out, and we're 6 shows away. That's
I think Jade is definitely going to be Athena or Statlander, right? Like I'm assuming it's going to be one of those two. The problem there is you've been building for this for like 2.5 months, and I think it's starting to lose its excitement. I mean, I think last month we were both excited to see where that went to.
And on our list, we have Jade down 25 points. She had one match this month. It was a tag match too.
Yeah,
And
and I
they
mean,
kind of just stopped the whole storyline with Athena and Statlander lately, and it's frustrating. Jade to me is like the biggest star in the women's division, and she looks spectacular. And she's been on just about every episode. So promo wise, she's there, but we need to see more of her matches now.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with a slow build, but when it's just like a 2-minute backstage segment,
Yeah,
on every show for 2 months, you're not
but
going to keep people's interest.
but then
Unfortunately,
like the build has just gone away too. Like they've gone a different direction. Maybe I'm not sure.
which
So
honestly is kind of crazy because you think, all right, 2 months ago you had Forbidden Door, right? So you had a lot of New Japan talent for that show. You're trying to build those matches. You feel like maybe that would be the time where the women wouldn't get as much time to build their
yeah,
feuds, right? Because you're not doing anything for that, right? Going into this month, you're building the Ring of Honor stuff, which is probably why we have Mercedes and Deeb higher, right? Cool, makes sense. But you got rid of all the New Japan talent that was here. Why the hell does this feel like it's gotten less time and is less push behind it this month? It doesn't make sense.
and the only reason I'm thinking that they dropped it is because they're saving one of those two matches, like you said, for the pay-per-view, and they can't draw it out every week on TV. So they're going a different direction, and they'll go right back to it, hopefully for All Out. With
Yeah, but I mean,
Athena.
you could
I think
always
Athena,
do.
or I mean, either one, but one Statlander could be going for the women's championship.
Sure. I mean, yeah, because like you said, we don't know who goes up against Rosa. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a Brit thing, right? Though, I mean, that's where the feud kind of is lining up. But
Yeah,
I mean, we'll see. But at the same time, though, it doesn't matter if you're not sure. You could still have Athena or Statlander
yeah,
fighting Layla or Hogan, or have them in a spot where we feel like it still means something. I mean, Athena or Statlander could take on somebody like Nyla Rose or Marina Shafir or any of like the heel women you have on the roster, just to give them a couple wins and keep
yeah.
keep a spotlight on them in the sense of like when they go up against Jade, it's going to mean something, and it doesn't feel that way right now.
Speaking of heel women on the roster, we ranked Anna Jay 49 up from where she was. And
Yeah,
a lot of this is her joining the Jericho Appreciation Society. She got her first promo. Some people weren't a fan, but in front of a live crowd. And that was a big thing for her. And
yeah,
they're, we had the Shark Cage match this month, and she had the key for that, I believe, or Tay Conti did, but she came down to help. Like they're actually giving her a storyline direction more than. I'm sorry, I know she started the month standing in the ring with Dark Order, but not much has happened with that. So
but
I'm
I mean
glad
that.
they're trying new things with her.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing to think about there, right? In the sense of, all right, you started the month with Dark Order, which is why she was ranked so low last month. Nothing against Dark Order, they just don't have a lot of TV time. There's not a lot of thought behind what they're doing. Versus, like you said, I think she attacked Ruby to get the keys. Is I think what happened. I think, or no, Ty attacked Ruby.
She came
Anna
down to
came
help
down,
Tay, yeah.
and they thought like it was going to be to like help Ruby, and then she went after Ruby.
Yes, because they had a Tay Conti Anna Jay kind of breakup segment backstage where Anna Jay lost a match and
Right.
Tay Conti called her out. So that was a week long story going into it. So
Right.
you
And
were
you thought
tricked
that the
with the
outcome
Shark
of
Cage
that
match.
was going to turn into an Anna J, Ty Conti program against each other, is honestly where I thought that was going, which I was happy with because it gives both those talents some time to shine. But I'm okay with this too. Like you said, like it puts a bigger spotlight on Anna J in the sense of like now it's probably the biggest program, right? The
Yeah.
stable versus stable thing has been around way too long. And I get it's because Cole's out, Red Dragon's out, Punk's out, Danielson's out, Omega's out. Like, so you're doing stable versus stable because you're missing a lot of people. So I get it. But it's nice to get some female talent on both sides of that stable, even like with Ruby on the other side, to give it some more meaning. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're just valets for the male talent. It's stupid. I don't look at it that way. I think any TV time, because that's going to build to a match. It's not like Rebel's coming out with somebody and she normally doesn't wrestle, right? It's not that. It's,
But
you
in
know, this
June,
is going to lead to something.
she only had 2 appearances. In July, we have her ranked high because she has 1 win, 1 loss, and 3 appearances besides that. But
Right.
also, those appearances have been joining the JAS, and she got mic time, and they put a lot behind her. They utilized her in a good way, and hopefully it pays off. I mean, she still has under 75 matches ever. All her matches have ever been for AEW. So she's
Right.
still new, and she's coming a long way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good spot for her. I think it's going to be, you know, any spotlight on anybody who is still young and still like, I don't want to say new to the industry, but still like on the up, like we talked about Yuta and Garcia already, like with Anna, like I'm all for it. Same thing with like Jungle Boy, like even though like the whole Christian thing, it's got its own thing going on or whatever, like that's a big deal in my opinion, is like getting these younger guys. You know, you had your 4 pillars, right? You know, this is the first time Darby's felt like he's in something that's not just a throwaway like feud for a good pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
Same thing with Jungle Boy. It's like, you know, the tag stuff's great, but I feel like this will be his coming out stuff. Obviously, MJ.
We saw a new Jungle Boy too. Like,
yeah,
he was hurt, and everyone. I kept saying, I hope he's just working on his promo, and he came back and blew everyone away with that edgy promo against Christian, which he needs to stand face to face at some point on the mic with Christian. You need to up your game, and that's what Christian's going to get out of people. You know, I mean, that's why they brought Christian in,
right.
and he hasn't done too much, but like, he's high again, and he had 1 match which he tagged in for the win, I believe.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Luchasaurus,
But I
right.
mean, his promos have kept this feud alive with Jungle Boy the entire time Jungle Boy's been out.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it real quick. Like we're talking about like importance on the card. I feel like that storyline is like second, third, fourth most important thing on the card right now.
Yeah, when that comes on, you don't want to walk away because you don't know what Christian's going to say, and
Yeah.
they built to it with. Actually, I'm thinking of August already, so I don't want to go there. But
Sure.
they even, I mean, Luchasaurus isn't too high on their list. He's in C, but they rebuilt Luchasaurus, but we're not really sure what's going on with him. Is he
Well, I think
good?
that's the
Is
thing.
he bad?
I think
he still has the black mask.
Right. I think that's the thing. I think if he ends up on the heel side, right? Because you got to think he, with the new music, the black mask, all that stuff, and he hasn't actually attacked Christian Cage. There hasn't been any physical. He's chased him, but there's been no physical altercation, right?
Yeah.
I think if Luchasaurus does actually turn on Jungle Boy, and this was all part of it, Luchasaurus is going to jump high onto the list. If he just ends up being Jurassic Express again, I think it hurts both Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Yeah.
Jungle Boy going through Luchasaurus to get to Christian is what I want to see.
Well, not only that, but I also think like they lost the titles. I think that the tag division is face heavy, and I don't think that they have a spot right now. You know, with Lee and Swerve being your champions, and then FTR being the other face team that's like a big deal. There's nowhere for them to go on the tag team side of things, and they just need to like break apart, build themselves, and then 2 years down the line they do a reunion. Everybody's gonna be so about it.
But change Jungle Boy into, they don't have to change his name, but Jungle Man,
right?
A more edgy guy.
Well, they'll probably do the Jungle Jack stuff that JR always pushes, which I think is fantastic. To have the insight to like, he's not going to be a Jungle Boy forever.
No,
let's start doing stuff now. So when he goes to being, Jack,
and when he beats Christian, and he will, it's gonna take him to the next level.
Exactly. All right. So obviously we were just talking about Jurassic Express. It's a good thing that they're broken up right now because there's too many face tag teams. So I mean, kind of talking about, Keith Lee and Swerve being the champs. I mean, who do we think would face them next? I mean, in your AEW's rankings, not our rankings, but the actual AEW rankings. I mean, your contenders are FTR, Young Bucks, Ten and Uno, the Acclaimed, and then 2.0. The only heel team in there, because the Bucks, The
Bucks seem
Bucks
like
are a
they're
heel
going
team,
baby
but
face.
yeah, we kind of looking into this week, we know where that
Yeah.
leaded. I mean, the only team there is 2.0.
And
I mean,
I feel like we haven't seen 2.0 as a tag team recently on TV. I know they had a match on Dark this
yeah.
past month, but
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, that's the one problem with stable versus stable when the big payoffs one month, right? Like Blood and Guts payoff was in June. You had a couple of people drop because, they're not focused on being in that match anymore. I mean, 2.0,
yeah,
we dropped them quite a few spots. They're down 27 spots, to 51. Just because there's not a lot of time for them, like they're all focused on Yuta and Garcia and stuff like that.
What's nice about AEW though is you can throw in a Swerve versus the Acclaimed, and the crowd is going to go nuts for it. Like I know it's face versus face. There's not going to be much story, but honestly, AEW crowds want to cheer everyone, right?
Sure.
Even if they're the bad guys, because we love everyone, but we
But
don't
see, I
just
don't know
want
if I
weekly
want
challengers. We want actually someone. We want a storyline going into the match.
exactly, and I think that's why the Acclaim doesn't work right now, because the Acclaimed are white hot. Like we have them high. Like
they're finishing up with Gun Club, which was a
right,
huge month for them last month.
right, and I don't think going straight into the tag titles after that, because we know, at least we were both assuming, I would guess, that Swerve and Lee are going to keep the belts for a bit. I don't want them to like strictly go straight for the belts and then it like deflates them. You know what I mean? Like I want them to have another feud against another team for a little bit to kind of elevate them just a little bit more, like put something, whoever it is, I don't care who it ends up being, or maybe they find a third for the trios setup. Who knows, right? Like, but have them do something else that's meaningful before they start going after tag.
And the tag belts might take a backseat for the next month because we are going to be doing the trios tournament, which could be a lot of tag teams. I mean, we're taking Best Friends, and Best Friends and Orange Cassidy are going for the trios title. We don't know how far they're going to make it, but I'm sure other tag teams are going to be taken out of the tag division right now. So they're kind of off on their own, where I'm not sure where they go.
Right. I mean, that's where we're thinking the Bucks go. But I mean, kind of talking about, not having enough heel teams. I mean, they just dropped another heel team, right? Like Team Taz is no longer a thing. We had Hook win the FTW title against Starks, which is great. But Hobbs turned on Starks, which I think is good for all three members. Like them not being a thing anymore is great, but it just again hurts the idea of having enough heel teams for your tag champions to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have loved to see Hobbs and Starks win the tag belts at some point, but Starks losing the FTW belt isn't bad at all. It's going to project him further. He's got more promo time and all that, and obviously his big feud coming out of this is Powerhouse Hobbs, which they could hold off to the pay-per-view, and I'm all for it.
Right. Where do you think they go after the Hobbs feud? Obviously, I would assume Ricky's got to come out on top on that, right? Like he's got to come out on top. Hobbs is a big dude. He's not going to hurt from it.
So back into X Team Taz, I think this is good for all of them. I mean, Hook winning his father's championship. I wish they even played that up more. I know they put out a video of them backstage of Hook and Taz, but like this is good for all of them, even though we are breaking up a heel faction that had some steam.
Yeah, but like we talked about, I mean, it's good for all three of them.
Yeah.
Where do you think Starks goes after Hobbs? Like, do you think he goes against Wardlow for
I think that would be a really good push for. I mean, Starks as TNT champion would be a nice step up. And I mean, Wardlow, we haven't even talked about Wardlow yet, but he just won the championship this month. So I don't know if I really want him losing it. He only had one defense. Right. It was a hot open against Orange Cassidy. And people were not looking forward to that match. But like, once again, Orange Cassidy delivers again in a great match. And people need to stop overlooking him.
Yeah, I mean, Orange Cassidy, my problem with Orange Cassidy isn't his style of match. I think it's fantastic. He's obviously a good worker. Like, you got to see past the gimmick on that.
Yeah.
My problem is he always loses the big match, which is I think my problem with like half the mid card, if you call them mid card. I don't like calling them mid card, but like half the people we have around C, right? But even like people like Darby, like
Darby loses,
or even Lethal. We have Lethal high.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but
they were utilized good.
To that payoff match,
yeah,
they don't win. You know what I mean?
They need to switch. I mean, I know Darby won in the last pay-per-view. It was a Forbidden Door thing, a little bit different. But there's so many times where his big match with CM Punk. Well, we knew Punk wasn't losing. His first match on pay-per-view a year ago, So he's put in these great positions. But hopefully, we have another good match coming up with him and Brody King.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of talents that, Wardlow won the belt, so we ranked him high, even though he didn't have a lot of TV time. Somebody that kind of dropped a bit for us is Adam Page. I feel like since he lost the title, he's kind of been floundering. I know they're going for this trios thing, right? I think he's going to end up with the Bucks in this trios tournament, which is fantastic. I think that's a good spot for not only Hangman, but for the Bucks in the sense of like, we lost our titles. Let's find something else that's going to feel important. So it works. But I mean, this is just kind of moping backstage, like
even for his championship run, though, like I felt like he delivered on every match.
Yes.
There wasn't too much storyline. There wasn't too much promo time. Maybe at the end with the Cole the two Adams.
Yeah.
Page versus Cole, there was more storyline. Well, like without that, he's just floundering, and it's been building with this Young Bucks and Dark Order stuff. And once he's back with the Bucks, I think it's going to help all three of them.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, they're in the finals. We don't even know who's in the tournament.
Yeah, not knowing the tournament.
But I mean, I think they're the finals that All Out. Yeah, I don't know who's on the other side of that, but that's a big spot for all three of them.
Well, I think that's something to be said. Like we always talk about, like somebody like a Lance Archer who like never wins, but because they're they're looked at as a threat, kind of a thing. Like even though Adam doesn't lose, I feel like it's the same kind of feeling where like, even though he's not losing, he's just there to put on that good match and then move on. You know what I mean? Like there's never any like story.
That's how Archer is. And I mean, Archer's in Japan right now for the G1, and we haven't shown or talked about that at all. And that's fine. Maybe hopefully when he returns, they talk about how he did over there, give him some type of story instead of just bringing him in as the big beast again.
See, I don't
people
think
need more stories. Yeah, you're probably right, because I mean,
the big beast again.
Because maybe that's where, really not much when he came back from Japan.
And maybe that's where they go with like a young guy who needs to win against like a Lance Archer after that, right? Like, I mean, who knows, right? But like, maybe like I'm just trying to look at our list real quick. If that ends up being something for like Yuta or GC to do, I think they're a little above that now. But all right, let's say like something like a Dante, maybe like that's his first big win. Like that'd be a big deal. Like that's my problem with Dante is he always loses. He's in good matches, but
he's a spectacle to watch.
Yeah, but I don't feel like there's anything behind it. Like there's a push behind him. He's getting TV time. He's getting great matches. I don't think the crowd can get behind.
He's been in three-way matches and takes the pin when he doesn't need to, which is a weird choice. But you said other people that dropped are disappointing. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with Andrade. He really was the valet to Rouge this past month. I know he was just in the Flair match. Flair's last match looked great, so I don't know if they were trying to hold him off because he had to carry that match.
Sure.
But he's just been the valet this month, even in the Royal Rampage. It was just
he wasn't even in the Battle Royal. And like the last Battle Royal a month ago, he was the Joker. You know what I mean? Like so he was in the
that was a big deal because he returned after his wedding.
Yeah, and then he just disappeared.
Now he hasn't done much.
Yeah.
So hopefully, Rouge, I thought, really made a statement. So if they tag together,
Yeah, which
It could
I
be
think
really
that's
good.
I think
I
we're
wonder
talking
if
about
it,
heel tag teams. There's your heel tag team
yeah.
right there, right? Like that would be a
And I know
fantastic team.
Rouge fought Dragon Lee at the Ring of Honor pay per view, but they've
Correct.
been to trios before. If they bring in Dragon Lee, like there's an awesome trios team.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't think about. I mean, me and you talked prior about like all the ideas of for this trios tournament on
Yeah,
like who can be doing what. I didn't even think bringing Dragon Lee and set that up. But
it's probably not going to happen, but hopefully, yeah. But
even
you're
down the
right.
line,
The
like
heel tag team of Andrade and Rouge versus Swerve in their glory could be real big.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about anybody that we wish the company utilized more, right? Like you just brought up Andrade, which is a perfect point. I mean, he's down, 26 points from where we had him last month. Right next to him is Ortiz, who's down 49 points, which I mean, we talked about the stable stuff, like
Okay,
there's
here's
only
a
so
guy.
much room.
Here's a guy I know I like a lot,
Yeah.
and you don't. But I don't know why AEW re-signed Brian Cage. He was used for the Ring of Honor show one time, and he's not utilized. Like he could be a big monster guy going after people, but I feel like he's just kind of been replaced with Wardlow on the big monster side. And I think Brian Cage is a bigger guy.
Well, I think the problem there too is all right. So you're setting up this faction with him and Gates of Agony, right? And Tully's going to be behind him, and Gresham's in that too, right? Gresham's a part of that
Yeah.
situation. And then all of a sudden at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, you're like, just kidding. Tully's not doing this. And I think, obviously Gresham asked for his release. I think that's part of it. I mean, everybody knew Claudio was winning that belt,
Yeah,
regardless of who
definitely.
was on the other end of that. It could have
And
been.
I mean, if you want to bring a name to Ring of Honor, that's the bigger mainstream star. The ex WWE guy right now, sadly, is the bigger star.
Well, especially because they're trying to figure out a TV deal and all that other stuff. So that makes sense. No matter who was on that side that was carrying that title for that company prior to this was losing to Claudio. Like it is what it is. But with that being said, I think setting him up with the Tully faction felt like, okay, this will be something fresh to do.
They were doing a storyline for it.
Yeah. And then they just are like, oh, well, Tully's not doing it anymore. It's going to be a Ring of Honor stable. And I bet Gresham's like, you were putting me in something that felt like it was going to be prominent on TV. And now you're just throwing this whole thing aside. Like, I'm sure, like, I mean, Cage made that tweet, right, where he's like wearing the shirt and he's like, well, it is what it is. It's gone now.
It's a collector's item because two of the 6 people or 5 people are gone. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that still sucks, like, in the sense of like, how, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to like compare booking from WWE to AEW or anything like that, but one of the reasons I don't watch WWE is because they do shit like that where they just throw something away, where they're just like, like move on. Like what happened last week doesn't matter this week. And I guess, they did tell a story in the sense of like, Tully sold to Prince, I forgot his name.
Prince Nana.
Yeah, Prince Nana. But I mean, if you didn't buy the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which I'm sure a lot of people didn't, you have no idea. And now they're just gone. So like that doesn't help your storyline. They were building to it.
Yeah.
And you weren't building that this is something for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. You're building like this is going to be a thing. And now it's just off television. And I hate when they do stuff like that. Like I get certain things don't work out, but tell us why it didn't work out. Tell us why we're moving on to something else, Another
one that we have again that I think we're both huge fans of is Danhausen. Now, of course, we don't want Danhausen, in the biggest matches, but
no,
I think they could be utilizing him more. They're utilizing him perfectly for the merchandise. He has a new shirt every other week, but I mean, keeping him with Best Friends, Orange Cassidy stuff works. The Under the Ring stuff is fun. I just feel like they could utilize it better. I am glad. I know it's been like a month or 2 now. They moved away from the backstage hook and Danhausen stuff because I think that really brought them both down.
Yeah. My problem with Danhausen is when he has a match, they act like he can't work.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind you doing that with Smart Mark Sterling, right? Because he's technically a lawyer or like a manager or whatever, right? So like even though he's a worker, same thing with Sanjay, right? Like they're workers, but they're looked at in the sense of like they're representing the talent. So they're not, if you didn't watch them on the independents, you or TNA or wherever they were at, it's, well, they don't wrestle.
Yeah.
Danhausen was signed as a wrestler, and you have him just like get wrecked every match. Like that to me is a problem.
Least like this last month, he faced Ricky Starks for the TNT belt, and they put a story in there. Danhausen hurt Starks' neck, and then Hook came out and used the neck as the weakness, where Hook won the belt, and then the following week, Hobbs. No, that was right then and there. Yeah, Hobbs attacks the neck again.
Exactly.
So they're telling. He set up the story, but he is not involved in the story in any way. Where that's going to be the story between Hobbs and Starks now, which is great. But I just wish
I don't mind any of that.
Danhausen more.
Yeah,
I know limiting comedy is good. They're keeping the comedy guys together, but he is a fan favorite, obviously. I just think they could utilize him more.
Well, another person I think that they're underutilizing that I'm hoping for the best, but we'll see, is Ethan Page. Like, you know, you have him in the Men of the Year thing, which is fine, but Scorpio's off TV. And, you know, we talk about how they did right by Bowens, even though when he was injured, you know, Max Caster was still wrestling, Bowens still came out.
Yeah.
Dante, you know, he's technically part of a tag team, you know, his brother's hurt, but they still give him prominent roles. It's like since Scorpio's been off, like Ethan Page has done like a couple of dark matches. You know, I just want to see more for him, you know. But
and someone also like him, we're not sure where it's going. Miro is kind of lower than Ethan Page. He had 3 appearances this month, and it's going against House of Dark. Is he joining House of Dark? Is he going to fight with Darby and Sting? We're not sure. There hasn't been too much, but we also haven't seen him in a match, and he returned from injury, and we just haven't seen much of him.
Right. Well, I
think all this year.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems with House of Black, in the sense of like when you're feuding with them. I don't mind the promos, like I don't mind them at all, but it'd be nice to get a little bit of live stuff here and there.
Yeah.
Like Miro have a match, and you know, lights go out, even though everybody's like,
it's overused because everyone thinks, oh, we're getting a surprise appearance, and then it's
it's just House of Black. But I mean,
House of Black or Sting.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you haven't done it in a few months, like, and it doesn't hurt to do that every 3 weeks, right? Like to have that happen.
Just don't put it at the end of the show, and people won't expect a big name.
Right, exactly, and especially if it's a Miro match, right? You know he's feuding with House of Black, kind of.
Yeah.
So you're not worried about it. You know what I mean? Like,
that's been going on since the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, since he got blasted in the face with mist, and it's just 3 appearances. Like, we want to see more Miro versus Malachi. Yes, give me that.
Well, I mean, that's I think why we have Malachi where we have Malachi too. I mean, he's in the middle, right? I mean, the promos are good. You know, I think
he had
kind of being tied to Brody puts him a little higher. Buddy's not even on here just because he's not.
But Malachi only had 1 match, and I'm not saying anything bad, but it's a tag match against Dark Order.
Right. Yeah. I mean, which I don't mind the idea of Dark Order getting more TV time or becoming a little bit more prominent. Like, I like that. I think with them being like, I didn't watch AEW when they weren't the comedy act, but I know them being a comedy act now. Like you said, Danhausen's going with Orange Cassidy, best friends. You know, you don't want to put too much comedy on it. But I mean, if you do the Orange Cassidy best friends segment on Dynamite, and then you do the Dark Order segment on Rampage, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's giving both comedy acts enough, you know, shine, I guess you could say, or time, without it feeling like we're doing too much of it. But again, they don't, you know, I think the only reason Dark Order got so much time this month is because Alan Angel's
there was a big internet.
Yeah,
everyone was pretty upset when Alan Angels moved on. We're not sure exactly. Too. Yeah, Stu Grayson before that, and
And I mean, technically Colt, right?
Cole Cabana's
Yeah,
on Ring of Honor. He did one show and he's not really with them anymore.
right.
And they stood in the ring at the beginning of the month and said the six of us are staying together. And next thing you know, Anna Jay's in Jericho Appreciation Society. And I mean, I think that's a good move for her.
Yeah, I think that's
There
good for
wasn't
her.
much going on with her in Dark Order, anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of like, last month we had all the factory guys like above most of the Dark Order guys because the factory won most of those matches and they were on the Forbidden Door pay-per-view and stuff, right? I think that they got hurt this month because everything was Dark Order winning everything, right? So
Yeah.
literally everybody on the factory lost every match this month, which dropped them in our list of like just not mattering because they didn't win any of their dark matches. Hopefully that changes. I'm curious about the trends of that stuff because it's not going to get a lot of spotlight on anything else. Like, and I don't think there's a lot of thought that goes into who wins the main event of Elevation. You know what I mean? Like, there's not.
Yeah, I agree.
Every match on Darker Elevation, for the most part, as soon as you see like the title card matchup card, who's going to win, except for the main event, which is usually
it's who gets the
some
entrance.
factory thing.
I mean, there's a lot of people that don't even get an entrance on Dark Elevation.
Right. So like you instantly know who's winning, but I think that's something I'm curious about since we're doing this month after month after month to see if there's like any ebbs and flows to that side of the roster. You know what I mean? Like, but I guess only time will tell.
We started the show off by you naming a bunch of people that weren't on last month and did get on this month. And a lot of them are lower guys that most, on Dark, and they're working their way up, which is great to get new talent on these shows.
Well, I think a lot of it too is this month there's no Forbidden Door, right? So like I don't know if Butcher and Blade were hurt, but you got Butcher and Blade back this month. Varsity Blondes were on TV this month. You got back, we talked about Brian Cage, but I don't know if that's even going to be a thing after whatever's going on there, right?
I don't think he's going to be in our August. I would like to be surprised, but
but
probably not going to be on the list.
Exactly. But I mean, you got, Takeshita had a big showing this month, like, which I think is going to lead into next month. I don't think there's an end to sight. Private Party wasn't on our list for June and made the list this month. Like, those are people that are mainstays on the roster that I think because of the New Japan show was like, hey,
they were cut off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting in the fact to see like Factory and all them didn't get cut from Darker Elevation. They still got their time, but like the lower end of TV got cut for the New Japan guys, which I think is kind of interesting. That, Factory and Dark Order still have their spots on Dark. I was going to say, I guess not, but Angelico is the one that got more spots this month on Dark and just like that kind of a role, but he's part of that Hardy family order that doesn't exist anymore with Andrade. That's, basically everybody that was part of that.
It's actually like we've lost a lot of factions lately, it seems like. And I'm not saying that's bad. They're going to go in new order. New directions, but.
Well, I don't think Team Taz was really a faction anymore anyway. Once Cage was gone and Hook didn't really do much with them anymore, like you kind of figure that was going to be the end of it. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of, it was just I felt like it was just a tag team, Hobbs and Starks, and then Hook was doing his own thing, not really a part of it to begin, like at that point anymore, So
is there any other, here's an interesting point that you pointed out to me before we started. We had 92 people on this list and 87 last time. Lucha Brothers, for both months, Penta was number 44 and Phoenix was 46. Like there's no way we could have done that, and somehow we ranked them both in the same spot. And
the odds of that happening with one talent, let alone two, let alone a tag team that the only reason we rank them separately is because all their matches were pretty much singles matches except for one both months. So the fact that they haven't been being utilized as a tag team for the last couple of months because of all the Andrade stuff or whatever, like they've been doing a lot of single stuff, which is fine.
Just crazy how same spot 2 months in a row, and it's just middle of the card, middle of the pack. They're
Yeah,
not
right in the
champions
middle.
right now,
Sure.
and they've been doing great. Hopefully, we start seeing them tag again soon. Because I mean, I'm okay with singles, big time single pushes for either one of them, but them as a tag team is always awesome to watch.
Yeah, and I think I think they can always be good contenders for the tag belts.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's say they go the trios route, right? And Pac comes back from overseas. Like that
Death
triangle
Triangle.
is always going to feel like there's a chance they can win whatever.
You can add
whatever
anybody
feud it
from
is.
this list with the Lucha Brothers, and it's going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, just them two
Yeah.
alone are fun, but you add in Pack to it, and it's even better.
Right. Well, I'm hoping that that's where the Andrade Roosh stuff goes. Now that Roosh,
Yeah.
I think this month was, hey, we need to show who Roosh is, right? Like, yeah, he's just coming in with Andrade, but we want to like show like he is a top talent,
But
instead of just like the sidekick to Andrade. And I think
thinking
they
a
did that
month
this time.
ahead, thinking a month ahead to All Out, like I could see Andrade and Roosh versus Swerve, but I can also see Andrade going against Moxley. I mean, we're a little far out. They got to build stuff up, but like Andrade, while he's in RD, I think he has so much potential. And with him actually wrestling again soon on AEW TV, he's just going to go up the list.
Yeah, I mean, if Mox keeps the title and is defending it all out, and Punk's not ready to come back, I mean, I think you're probably right. I mean, I can't think of any other heel unless they do Jericho again, but I don't know if you would do Jericho two
Break it
times
to
in a
like,
row.
and then it's a little much.
Yeah.
But that might not even be the main event. You know, they might go with. See, I thought the main event of All Out was going to be FTR versus the Young Bucks, like that. I'm sad we're not getting that match. Obviously, Trios title is the reason why.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we're at a month out. And
But who knows
good.
if FTR finds a partner, and like what if
Yeah.
that's the other side of the Young Buck stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
if that's the other side of it, then that makes a lot of sense. But who knows where that's going to be? I mean, you know, think about it the other way. What if Jericho wins the Quake of the Lake? Like, who's the top face to take him out of it all out?
I mean, Jericho's the only one where, you know, I mean, we didn't think Roosh was going to win it. We don't think other people facing Max is going to win it. But like, Jericho's still, I mean, we had him fourth last time. He's fifth. He was the best first champion. They needed him as the champion then. They don't need him now, but he could legitimately win the belt.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's going to, but like,
I hope he does.
There's a conversation of who does Mox face at All Out, and you could have the same conversation with who does Jericho face. But I mean, they're kind of in the same boat.
Well, here's this. Now that we're talking about this, and we kind of talked about Garcia earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Garcia Moxley for the title.
Yeah,
If
people
Moxley
will go
retains.
nuts for that. Yeah,
Because he beat Danielson. He's like, I beat your boy, and now I'm coming for you. That would be.
And while it's not the huge marquee name, everyone watching AEW loves Garcia. So, and I mean, everyone wanted Garcia to be in Blackpool Combat Club. Garcia being in JAS is even better, I think, because he's fighting everyone in Blackpool. So
yeah,
I think it's even better for him. And you get to see this totally different side of him no one was expecting. It's his sports entertainer gimmick, and it's been great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like you said, if he was on the Blackpool side of things, you wouldn't be getting the matchups that we're excited about now. I mean, it'd be him against Hager. Like, not to say anything bad about Hager, but that's not a match that people are like, this is gonna be an epic battle. But he's like, oh, I'm gonna fight Danielson in his first match back. Everybody's like, this match is gonna be like the best match of the night. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
That's the way that's got to be looked at, and that's why I think if you did that for the title, I mean, it can't be your main event, right? You'd have to have a different main event.
No, I agree with that,
but I mean, if you do the trios belts as the main event, depending on who's on the other side of Young Bucks page, if that's where they go that route, right?
I mean, it could be the rest of Blackpool Combat Club versus Hung Bucks for the trios title.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a main event of a show.
I mean, you could also be doing something, you know, I really hope we don't get like a Jericho Kingston thing, but like, there's other people that like, I think you could tell a good story with the main event. Like, say Omega comes back, right, and just starts feuding with somebody. Like
And him
that could
coming back
be
at the end of All Out makes
well, like not
that
even
would be
that. What if
great.
he comes back for All Out? What if he comes
Yeah,
back
he
and
might
fights
be in the
Moxley or
trios
Jericho?
tournament.
Yeah, well, not even that. Not even if he comes back in the trios tournament. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be
he
fine.
could fight, but he could fight Mox. He could fight Jericho.
That's what I'm saying is, bring him back in one of
There's a
those
lot of
roles.
options, and the more people that are coming back, the people we listed that aren't on this list, top names, it's just more options. And I'm
Well,
excited to see
even
where
like,
August goes.
yeah, well, like even if Jericho wins against Mox, like Wake in the Lake, I mean, Danielson's cleared, right? He wrestled Garcia.
Yeah,
Like, who cares if he's not ranked? Like,
no,
that match would be epic. But I mean, even if you keep the Garcia Moxley match for the title, like let's say that's like the set in stone thing, your main event could be a Jericho Danielson. Your main event could be
yeah,
something along those lines if you don't feel the Garcia could be the main event there.
but I like the idea of Brian, Claudio, and Yuta versus Hung Bucks. Like
Yeah, that would be.
that could be
I
awesome.
mean, I don't know if you want two faces there because obviously Young Bucks and Adam Page are the face
Okay.
team now. I mean, maybe you do, but I think I couldn't tell you what the heel team on the other side of that
No,
would
but it
be.
would still just be a great match. Tournament, you might not get heel versus face in the finals, but we got some time. We got
Yeah, we don't know how that.
that'll be all next month building
Yeah,
up
it'll
to
be a good
All Out.
conversation for next month in the sense of like, how did this pan out? Because we don't have enough information right now, which is good. Is there anything you want to end on? I think we're getting close to time.
No,
here.
I think that's I hope everyone enjoys the format better than last month. We definitely tried to take the criticism and and fix things. We knew it was a long show last time, and I think this is a much better format for us.
Yeah, and I mean, we honestly were trying a bunch of different other ideas,
Yeah,
but it wasn't going to get across what we were hoping to get across. Like we thought about breaking out the women or breaking out the tags, but I mean, the point of us doing some of this and some of our critique on this is, our top 10 this month. I'm just going to run down them real quick. We got 10 was Wardlow, 9 was Keith Lee and Swerve, 8 is Kingston, 7 Garcia, 6 Yuta, 5 Jericho, 4 FTR, 3 Claudio, 2 Brody, 1 Moxley. I want female talent in that top 10.
yeah.
If we broke out the female separate, we would never be able to make that conversation
No.
happen. I like having tag teams in the top 10. I think the idea of a well-rounded card isn't just having 10 guys that are at the top of the card every month. Like, I like the idea of the diversity of that. And I like being able to see storylines build to that. You know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of, us having somebody low on the card. Perfect example, Willow. Willow came out of nowhere last month.
Yeah.
And now I think we
And
had her like low C.
She's not even signed, but like,
yeah, but
she gets that pop, the personality on every time she's on screen for matches and promos. I mean, she stands out more than everyone else, even though she's not even signed yet.
Right. And watching that month after month, us putting her higher because the crowd's behind her and what she's doing feels, like a bigger deal. I hate to see that, other stuff like we talked about it already, like the Jade stuff feeling less than this month. But like, I like the idea of like watching the rise and fall of some feuds and stuff. Like, because I think honestly, even though we're ranking talent, more or less we're ranking what our top storylines are and what's given the most time, because that's kind of the point of this. Is
because I mean, you
can
can take anyone from D and they're putting on an exciting match. This is more than match quality now. Now, I mean, some matches will get you higher on the card. I mean, Mox is having a hell of a run this year, but like, it's all about the storylines and how they utilize people, and that's what we're trying to get across and just debate each month where the company's at.
Yeah, and maybe if somebody should be higher on, like, they should have something that's a little bit more prominent of a spot or less prominent of a spot. Like, and just kind of discuss, that month. So I think we're doing a good job of that. But time to wrap this up. We'll knock this out. Keeping tabs on everything for next month. Do this again next month and see the ebbs and flows for August leading into All
And
Out.
August is going to be all the build for All Out.
Yeah, it'll be
With
exciting
the
to
trios
see.
tournament, which is it's going to be exciting because where we're at right now, we're only 6 shows away, TV shows, and we don't know where All Out's going to be. So
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot.
we don't even
happening
know.
in August.
There's no formation of that card yet, which is going to be a super exciting.
We got Sammy
3-week build.
versus Eddie is the only thing.
The only thing, correct? Yeah.
All right, see you guys in August.
Yep.